But then 3 days later, he gives a different statement. And the statement he gave to the Trinidad Guardian, dated the 6th of December 2024, authored by K. Marie Fletcher and Gail Alexander. Leonce, matter bigger than health issues forced me out of election race. So now he changes his story. So when the story broke, he thought that Trinidad and Tobago forgot about him saying that he was leaving politics and so on. So he then says in this article, and he's quoted as saying here, which he didn't deny, Leonce said he's hoping his issues are resolved before the next general election, so he can once again put forward his nomination. He said he's seen in the past where candidates are switched at the last minute. So in his statement 2 days ago, he's saying that he had made a decision to leave politics. But he forgot in December, on the 6th, he's saying that there was an issue that has forced him out and that he's hoping that is resolved before the general election so that he could still get back the seat. That's the first major discrepancy that we had picked up in his statement. Secondly, in his statement, he says this. He says his plans was to re-establish the engineering and construction business that he had started in 2005. Now, this is, in my hand here, is a copy of the Certificate of Incorporation of a private company limited. And this is a company called 444 Logistics Limited, incorporated on the 15th of September 2023. This is the company that Minister Leonce and one Mr. Hamid Abedi Wilson are named as directors. So he incorporated this company in September 2023. When you look at the records from the company's registry in the United Kingdom, the nature of the business is listed as other transportation support activities. Minister Leonce in his statement is saying, listen, I am setting up a business for what? Engineering and construction business. But when you incorporated the company, you said the nature of your business is other transportation support activities. Okay? Then he goes on to say this. He says he had reached out to a friend in London who put me in touch with a Trinidadian gentleman who he said had business in the UK and would be able to register a company on my behalf. I had met the gentleman twice before through the same friend socially. So what Minister Leonce is telling the country and telling the Prime Minister, because the Prime Minister said that this was the discussion he had with the Minister before, after the story would have broken. Minister Leonce is telling the country and wants us to believe that he met a stranger at a party, social event, and said, listen, I want to set up a company. The man tell him, I have a company in the United Kingdom, or I live in the United Kingdom, and I'll help you register this company. And Minister Leonce is then saying in his statement, he said he was told by registering the business, he required a UK address, and the gentleman offered to use this address, and he would have to be listed as a director. Members of the media, this is absolutely untrue. When you look at the company's registry in the United Kingdom, and you can go on the website and you can get all of the information also from the company's house. When you are registering a company in the United Kingdom, you are entitled to appoint not 2 directors, but 1 director. The law in Trinidad and Tobago is clear. The minimum amount of directors must be 2. In the United Kingdom, according to their guidelines, you have to at least have 1 director. The director must be over the age of 16, and directors that do not live in the UK must have a UK registered office address. Okay, so they're indicating that we need an office address. Again, when you go on the guidelines, it says this. The rules in relation to registered address. The UK Companies Registry is confirming that if you use a different address from the director's address, such as the address of an accountant or a solicitor, you must get their permission. And they have an agent form that you have to complete who will give you the address to use. So Minister Leonce is playing smart with foolishness when he tells the country and he tells the Prime Minister, listen, I need to make this man a director of my company in order to get to use his address. That is totally untrue. An authorization could have been given to use any address in the United Kingdom. But what is very important is this. Minister Lyons did not only agree for this individual to be made a director, he also made him a shareholder of the company. In fact, at the time of registration of the company, there's one form called Statement of Capital, Share Capital. So, very simple language, a company is established, you have a directorship that manages the company, then you have the shareholding, which deals with the ownership of the company, because the shareholders are the ones who own the company. When you look at the share capital of this company, 444 Logistics, the number of shares that were allotted were 2 shares. 1 share was allocated to Adrian Xavier Lyons, and 1 share was allocated to Amid Abedi Wilson. And that is the statement of the share capital that was given in the incorporation documents that we have access to. Now, Minister Lyons cannot now come and say, well, he had to make him a shareholder of the company in order to use his address also. So this raises serious concerns. And the facts all point to that there was a business arrangement, a clear business arrangement between Mr. Lyons and Mr. Wilson. So we are not buying his explanation that this is, and I'm quoting from his statement where he says he was merely registering a company. Merely registering a company would simply mean this. You instruct an attorney in the UK, you pay an accountant in the UK, and they could have set up this company for you. You did not need Mr. Wilson to be involved. But when you examine the documents, it is clear that there was a business relationship between Mr. Lyons and Mr. Wilson by the incorporation of this particular company. It is totally clear as day with respect to this point. The facts all point on that direction. Then, Mr. Lyons says, well, look, in July 2024, well, before I get to July 2024, if the address was such a big issue and you had to use this address of the Mr. Wilson person, why is it now on the 28th of February 2024, before he ceased to be a director or a shareholder of the company, they changed the address of the company? The initial address of the company was this: P.O. Box 1500, Springfield Road, London, United Kingdom, N11 4DZ, England. When you look at the change of registered address, which is a document filed again in the company's registry, on the 20th of February, the address was now changed to Suite 1, DHG 72 Burnley Road, London, England, NW10 1EJ. Whose address is this now? Whose address? You had to get a director to use this address? I didn't see any other director. In fact, the same address that they were using, the Springfield address, is still, I believe, registered for Mr. Wilson. But where does new address come from? Why didn't have to get a director to use this address? Because your initial explanation was that you needed a director to use his address. So whose address is this? Suite 1, DHG 72 Burnley Road, London, England. Then Mr. Lyons says, well, look, on the 7th of July or so, or around July at that time, he was then made aware that the gentleman who he was listed jointly as a director of my UK company was subject of an investigation unbeknownst to me. Who informed you of this investigation, Mr. Lyons? Who? When you became aware of the investigation, what was the nature of the investigation? Was it in relation to gang-related activities? I'm asking. The country needs to know. What was the nature of the investigation that caused you so much consternation that you decided to immediately call Mr. Wilson and tell him, listen, remove me as a director of the company. We are asking Mr. Lyons to break his silence in this matter. And when he became aware of this particular investigation, Mr. Lyons also needs to tell Trinidad and Tobago who did he inform of this investigation? At the time, did you tell Prime Minister Rowley? At the time, did you tell your line minister, Mrs. Camille Robinson Regis, who is now the Attorney General? Those are very pertinent questions that has to be answered. Thereafter, Mr. Lyons then, we have the documents also where he filed to cease to be a director. But this entire matter raises so many more questions than answers. And as I said initially, it calls into question the judgment of the Prime Minister, Minister Stuart Young. Because why, when Prime Minister Rowley was in charge of the cabinet, Mr. Lyons withdrew or did not appear for his screening? But when Minister Young became Prime Minister, you had so much confidence in him to make him the substantive Minister of Housing. I'm asking whether or not Minister Lyons was made the Minister of Housing for the purposes of ensuring, and I'm asking, there's no allegation being made here, I'm asking whether or not this had to deal with awarding contracts on behalf of the HDC. I'm asking, I'm not making any direct allegations, and this has to be answered. Further, because we are informed that there are issues with respect to when the SOE is lifted, that the government wants to ensure that they look good, and that persons may be in fact awarded contracts. I also want to ask this evening, why Minister Lyons, sitting as a junior minister, as a member of parliament, was engaged in setting up a business in order to do this, This is what he says, It had to deal with establishing operations so that he would generate foreign currency earnings from wider Caribbean and the UK. And in fact, there's one point I didn't raise. Minister Lyons is talking about this address, and he needed to use Mr. Abedi Wilson's address and making this thing feel like it's just a mere arrangement. He says in his statement he has a 94-year-old grandmother currently residing in the UK. Why did he ask grandma to use her address? That's your family. He also indicated that he has strong family connections and familiarities within the United Kingdom. So you have all of this family, you have all of these friends in the United Kingdom, but you chose to go in business with Mr. Wilson. Mr. Lyons, we cannot, and we simply cannot buy your explanation with respect to this particular matter. We cannot, and we will not. Today, the opposition calls on the Prime Minister, Prime Minister Stuart Young, to immediately launch an investigation into this matter and relieve Minister Lyons of his ministerial portfolio. We are asking for the Acting Commissioner of Police to also launch a police investigation into this matter. We are also calling on the Integrity Commission to determine whether or not Minister Lyons would have filed and declared beneficial ownership in this particular company to the Integrity Commission for his filings for the year 2022. We demand an immediate investigation in this matter, and we also demand that Minister Lyons' appointment be revoked. If Minister Lyons is not good enough to be a member of parliament and fight the general election, why did you appoint him as a Minister of Housing and Urban Development? So, members of the media, these are the comments I wish to make with respect to this particular matter in relation to Minister Lyons. The other matter that has raised some public concern is a matter involving one Totaram Duki and the Commissioner of Police. This was a matter filed recently, and it made some press. And in this particular matter, Mr. Totaram Duki, who is a retired Assistant Commissioner of Police, is suing the state for breaches of his constitutional rights with respect to the treatment that was meted out to him while he was a serving officer. But what the minister is what the claimant in this matter, Toto Ramduki, is doing the Assistant Commissioner of Police, former Assistant Commissioner of Police. He has now confirmed to Trinidad and Tobago at page 10 of the fixed state claim form that Minister Camille Robinson Regis was under police investigation, and I don't think the investigation is closed, for money laundering and fraudulent conversion. And that matter was assigned to one ACP William Nurse. Also, there was an investigation into former Member of Parliament, Darrell Smith, for misbehavior in public office, also assigned to William Nurse. And what he is doing here is that he went through the details of some matters of the investigation in terms of a deposit being made by Camille Robinson Regis on the 8th of January 2016 with respect to a sum of $143,800 at FCB, and signed a source of funds declaration that the money came from Republic Bank. But then Republic Bank is saying that the minister received 4 managers' check not cashed on that day, which calls into further question Minister Young's judgment. Minister Young made 3 decisions as Prime Minister. He appointed Camille Robinson Regis as Attorney General, an attorney at law who is not practicing, who had to face the courts recently in order to be issued a practicing certificate. He appointed Minister Leons, who is now involved in business transactions, who is involved in business transactions with persons who, it is alleged, has ties with respect to criminal and illicit activities, and he has him as the Minister of Housing within his cabinet. And the third thing he has done is dissolve the Parliament. Minister Young right now is probably in Jamaica, defending statements and his actions and his conduct over the last 10 years with respect to his relationship with the Maduro regime and that of Delcy Rodriguez. We wait to hear what is the outcome of that meeting with Minister Young and Marco Rubio with respect to that particular matter. So members of the media, to recap, we are asking for investigations to be commenced against Minister Leons, and also for him to be relieved of his ministerial portfolio. So I thank you very much, members of the media, and if you have any questions, I'm open to answer.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hussain Shainscope from Guardian Media Limited. I know that you have covered this repeatedly during your address and even in the wrap-up segment. But yesterday, I just want to ask for record, DCP Kurt Simon who have made it clear in a police media briefing that there was no ongoing investigation as far as he was aware into Mr. Leons and the gentleman who you referred to who currently lives in the UK. Just in your own words, are you satisfied with that response?
No, I'm totally not satisfied with that response. We have a suite of legislation in this country. For example, if there's an investigation being launched in another jurisdiction, for example, the UK, because based on the article, it seems as though there's an investigation taking place in the United Kingdom. If you're aware of that particular investigation, it's prudent upon the TTPS to seek assistance from the UK government in order to understand what is the nature of those relationships. As we speak now, we don't know the nature or the exact facts of the investigation taking place with respect to Mr. Wilson, and yet Minister Stuart Young is buying that particular explanation. Unless they know something that we don't know, I am dissatisfied with that statement being given by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and they must be more active and take more aggressive steps in order to getting to the bottom of this particular matter.
Just one last thing, just to kind of segue away from the issue related to Mr. Leons, you have referenced it. The discussions between Stuart Young as well, our Prime Minister Stuart Young, as well as other Caribbean leaders, and Mr. Marco Rubio, what is the expectation of the UNC, during these talks and hopefully coming out of it?
We wish the best for Trinidad and Tobago, and we, as the opposition, always gave a commitment to maintain strong bilateral ties with the United States of America. However, we have seen over the past few years, which we have repeatedly warned the government with respect to their closeness and their relationship with the Maduro regime, which is clearly frowned upon by the new administration in the US. Coming out of those meetings, all we do is wish the best for Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, just on the basis of that, one last question I wanted to ask. There was a recent, and I'm not sure if the UNC as a party would have spoken to this, but there was a recent ruling concerning this Marcia Caesar, highly publicized, and it drew the attention of several folks, including well-known attorney Israel Raja Khan, who would have staged a long demonstration on the steps of the Hall of Justice, I think it was yesterday. Any general comments or responses to that?
With respect to that particular matter, there is a process that has to be followed. The Prime Minister is the one who triggers that process, so the ball is in Prime Minister Young's court. That process is with respect to a formal investigation has to be launched that is triggered by the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister has that prerogative and that duty in order to determine whether or not that should be done. And the ball is in Minister Young's court. All right, that's it. All right, thank you very much. We are going to also invite you on Thursday evening at the La Jolla Complex, where a town hall will be hosted by Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisessa. And then we have another public meeting that will be taking place on Saturday in the Sangre Grande region, Northeastern College. So we are on the campaign trail, and I leave you when UNC wins, Trinidad and Tobago wins. I thank you very much.
When UNC wins, everybody wins. When UNC wins, Trinbago wins. Trinbago wins. Everybody wins. Everybody wins. Tell your neighbor, tell your friend, now is the time to rise and shine. Tell your mother, tell your father, now is the time to decide. If you want leaders who can build, place your ex by the rising sun. If you want leaders who can lead properly, place your ex by the rising sun. On election day, vote UNC. One love, one team, one hope, one dream. On election day, vote UNC. One love, one team, one hope, one dream. When UNC wins, everybody wins. When UNC wins, Trinbago wins. Trinbago wins. Everybody wins. Everybody wins. Vote for peace. Vote for love. Vote for hope. Vote for change. When UNC wins, everybody wins. When UNC wins, Trinbago wins. Trinbago wins. Everybody wins. Everybody wins. Tell your neighbor, tell your friend, now is the time to rise and shine. Tell your mother, tell your father, now is the time to decide. If you want leaders who can restore hope, place your ex by the rising sun. If you want leaders who lead with love, place your ex by the rising sun. On election day, vote UNC. One love, one team, one hope, one dream. On election day, vote UNC. One love, one team, one hope, one dream. When UNC wins, everybody wins. When UNC wins, Trinbago wins. Trinbago wins. Everybody wins. Everybody wins. Vote for peace. Vote for love. Vote for hope. Vote for change. When UNC wins, everybody wins. When UNC wins, Trinbago wins. Trinbago wins. Everybody wins. Everybody wins. On election day, vote UNC. One love, one team, one hope, one dream. On election day, vote UNC. One love, one team,